Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. This is Ghostware38, and today I'm bringing you a sort of mini overview of my samurai and Japanese film collection so far. This is just a small section, but it is growing. For me, I have always had a love of history and history of different cultures. And that started when I watched the Criterion Collection movie, The Seven Samurai. I do not have that pictured here because I'm in the process of converting some of my Criterion DVDs, or at least the ones that had or at least ones that came out, into Blu-rays, like I did here with Sanjuro. Some of these movies I might have discussed in the past when I talked about various different Criterion videos. Others films are more new and recent. Um, so I'm basically just showing my collection now. Some of these I have already lined up to give their own dedicated reviews, such as my most recent acquisition, Swords of Vengeance, otherwise known as the Fall of Akko Castle. This is the story of the 47 Ronin, and I really look forward to watching that. I will put a link to the trailer to it in the description of this video. This is available to either rent or buy through YouTube. It is also available to watch on the app Tubi, and I'll put a description and a link to that in this video as well in there if you'd be interested in wanting to give it a watch. A lot of the other films that I have seen are all through YouTube or secondary apps, other apps. This is just a small section of my collection. I am still growing what I have. I'm looking for more of the Zatoichi series, even though I know Criterion has the set. I might end up caving and buying that. Trying to get another copy of Throne of Blood for the Blu-ray. Replacing my copy of Rashomon with a Blu-ray. Same thing with Kagemusha and a couple others. But yeah, this is still a work in progress. I'm not done yet. But kind of, that being said, putting things off to a little bit of the side here. Looking at the Sword of Vengeance. Up first, we have Swords of Vengeance. It's a DVD here. I got this in the mail from eBay. As I said at the beginning of this video, it is a film about the 47 Ronin. That is, of course, a very popular story in Japan and based on a true event. And if you want to know more about that event, I will post a video of the YouTuber The Shogunate. He did a deep dive and an episode dedicated to them. Reading the back of the case here, director Kinji Fukasaku teams up with Sonny Chiba, this is one of his films, to present a daring and violent version of Japan's epic samurai myth, the 47 Loyal Retainers, otherwise called the 47 Ronin. When Asano, the young master of Akko Castle, draws his sword on his elder, Lord Kira, he's ordered to dissolve his clan and commit harakiri, which is their version of ritual suicide, with the help of the now masterless Akko warriors. Asano's devoted chamberlain, Oishi, who played by Kanoki Yorazuwa from his other film Shogun Samurai, and also the other film The Yagyu Clan Conspiracy, where Sonny Chiba also starred in the role. He was a one-eyed samurai. You'd most likely see him if you remember an image with him with an eye patch. Begins to plot an elaborate revenge 2 years in the making. As the lines of loyalty and betrayal are drawn, the stage is set for an explosive battle with swordplay expertly choreographed by Chiba himself. in the booklet here is linear notes and sort of kind of like an essay, kind of like how Criterion did their videos. You can pause the screen here if you guys wish to want to read that for yourself. Leave that up there for a couple seconds. And just the back. And just the cover image of the DVD. This is region 1, so I know this will work. But yeah, really looking forward to watching this and seeing this story. They've made a couple movies about the 47 Ronin. Most infamously is the film with Keanu Reeves. I like to give most movies a chance, even the bad ones. But even that one has me like, I don't know if I really want to put in the time to watch it. But so I'm gonna stick with this one first. And up next in the collection, we have the James Clavell miniseries Shogun, starring Richard Chamberlain and Toshiro Mifune. Obviously, most recently with the series was remade again recently on Hulu, which you can watch. I will admit I have not seen that show yet. I've heard people talk about it on YouTube, some good, some bad, but I am very much curious about it. But I have seen reviewers talking about all the episodes, so I kind of obviously know what I'm getting myself into. But for now, I found this. This has been on my shelf for a little while. I have enjoyed this series immensely. I am in fact rewatching it. I started it last night. Richard Chamberlain actually just passed away fairly recently. May he rest in peace. I have yet to read the book, mostly because that book is very long and takes a while and a very good time commitment. But for me, I also listen to audiobooks, and I found the audiobook of Shogun through Audible, and I'll be listening to that. I will be talking about various different samurai movies over the course of some of these videos, both through Criterion titles and independent shows. Maybe talk about Zatoichi, and just various different movies that have samurai or the feudal Japan setting. Oh, it actually holds up, stays up there pretty good. I have a couple Blu-rays here, as you saw, of course. Sanjuro, which I replaced the DVD of that one. This is the follow-up and sequel to Yojimbo, of course, starring both Toshiro Mifune. They were both made during the 60s. I need to go back and revisit this one. This one's not as fresh in my mind as Yojimbo. And then, of course, here, Kobayashi's Harakiri, starring Tatsuya Nakadai, who Nakadai also worked with Mifune on a number of films, including Yojimbo and Samurai Rebellion, among many others. This can be argued as one of the best or top samurai films of all time, but different people have different opinions and different favorites, so you're free to make up your own mind about this one. Nakadai plays a samurai who is basically at the end of his rope and basically is going to end his own life, but before he does that, he goes to a lord's house to request permission to use his place to commit to it. But before he does, he basically tells them a story, and then half of this movie is shown in flashback that led Nakadai's character up to the events that we see him in. I won't spoil it, but it's well worth the time and investment to watch it. The film is a little over, or about 2 hours, long. Yeah. So it's a little bit of a time sink, but if you can hang in there and like watch it at bits at a time, you will probably enjoy this movie. I want to say at the time filming this, I want to say Nakadai was like in his mid late 30s, so he was still fairly young. Because this film came out in 1962. Because the first time we ever see his work, I think, is in Seven Samurai, and that was back in the early mid early mid 50s. So this is not too long after that during that time. Of course, Nakadai did work outside of samurai movies. There was the most one comes to mind is in the Criterion Collection. It's The Human Condition. It's a war film. This is Yojimbo, the one I talked about. 1961. This was, of course, remade as a spaghetti western from the Clint Eastwood Dollars trilogy, specifically Fistful of Dollars, just as popular movies were inspired by these films, such as Star Wars or A New Hope being inspired by elements from The Hidden Fortress. Films getting remakes. There's the rest of these. I have one single volume. This is from the Lone Wolf and Cub series. There were 5 other volumes. I found those all on eBay, but I didn't buy them yet, so I'm going to have to wait. I haven't watched this yet, because this has episodes 23 through 26 of their TV show. So I can't say much about this series yet, because I want to start from the beginning. I don't know if this takes place like after the events of the movies, or if this is like a separate entity. I've only ever seen The Sword of Vengeance and the second Lone Wolf and Cub movie. Lone Wolf and Cub's television series began in 1973 and chronicles the journeys and adventures of the fabled duo on their push for vengeance. Gosudi is designed the envious to disgrace and frame Ogami in the eyes of the shogun to give him criminal status and forcing him to forfeit his post with his surviving son, Daigoro. Ogami sets off to live as an assassin for hire until he can locate and exact revenge on the Yagyu clan. Yeah. Anyway, I'll be curious about this when I finally get around to it. I'll probably talk more about this and give its own dedicated video once I finish this series. But anyway, kind of moving on from there, this is another Tatsuya Nakadai film. This is The Sword of Doom, a film that was so, for its time, not so to say horrific, but it's like either gruesome, a bit bloody, and just violent, that this was originally going to be a trilogy, that its 2 sequels were canceled, and they never happened, but the YouTuber Bushido Blues talks about those films and what they would have been, apparently because this series was based on a book. And he does a video that talks about what that story would have been, as well as a series that was later made, basically that redid this film and the rest of the story. So I'll put that video and the link of this in the description of this video as well if you guys want to see that. This is, of course, also starring Toshiro Mifune. It's about Ryunosuke. He's basically, the quote that sticks out most to me was, no. An evil sword represents an evil soul, or something to that effect. So basically, Ryunosuke is a brutal, violent man with a sword, and his sword can also be seen as an evil entity, and a lot of people just want him dead. He is far from a nice man. He is not the good guy protagonist that we're used to seeing. This is basically the story of a villain, and you kind of like want to see him get his comeuppance. But by the end of the movie, he basically just goes mad. Or at least that's the implication. This is Samurai Rebellion. This came out in 1967. This is one of the later films in Mifune's career. It's with Kobayashi, the same director as Harakiri. This came out in 67. This Harakiri came out in 62. This is a movie I haven't seen for a while, so I'm going to need to revisit this. Nakadai also appears in this film as well, so you know it's going to be good. Each time, each of them are either in a movie or in a movie together, you know things are going to go, the film is going to be good and that you should tune in and watch it. And I found volumes 1, 2, and 4 of the Zatoichi series. This is not to be confused with the TV show, because I found out there was also a television show of Zatoichi, also starring Shintaro Katsu. These are the movies, but Criterion, of course, has a collection with all 26 in DVD and Blu-ray form, but I found a couple here. Volumes 1, the first story, Volume 2. The first 2 volumes came out in 1962, and then Volume 4 came out in 63, and after the first 2 volumes, the series switched over to color, so starting with Volume 3 forward, the show was in nothing but color. So for black and white, it was just these 2. Zatoichi is a blind masseuse, but he's also a skilled swordsman as well. Basically, it's about him getting into various misadventures and crazy antics while also trying to basically just live his life, and in the process, hopefully trying not to die. There's a couple reoccurring characters in some of the first early volumes. There is a woman that he meets in this Volume 1. She later reappears in Volumes 2 and 3, and I think number 4 is a separate thing. In Volume 20, Zatoichi actually crosses paths with Mifune's Yojimbo character for a crossover. So I have not seen that one. I have, in fact, only seen the first 2, so I'm waiting to get Volume 3 and then watch the rest of them onwards. I saw those through the Criterion set that a friend had that he loaned me, because he likes this character, and so I kind of gotten a bit of an interest from him, also watching it through the Criterion channel back when I don't know if they still have it now, but kind of going through that series. I might end up picking up my own set, though. And that's kind of mostly about it as far as my movies and some TV shows. There was a remake of Zatoichi. It was a movie. It was another movie as well. I think, I could be wrong about the date. Early-ish, mid-2000s, I think they remade it. But the Katsu version is definitely the better alternative. In terms of video games, I have 2 that have come to mind. I picked this up recently, and I've been just running through it like crazy. This is Like a Dragon Ishin. You're taking on the role of Ryoma Sakamoto during the Bakumatsu Edo period. This is basically towards kind of the end of the eras of feudal Japan. You also get to experience his journey. The story takes place in Kyo, what would become known as Kyoto in the modern day. I am currently on chapter 4 of this game, so I have not finished the story yet. But I'm really enjoying my time with this game so far. There is no English dub of this game. It's all in Japanese, so if you can handle reading subtitles and dealing with that, you're going to be fine. This is actually a remake. This title's a remake. This was a release for Western audiences a couple years ago, because this was originally just a Japanese-only game. So I'm enjoying this one. I understand that they made a Like a Dragon one with Musashi Miyamoto. So if this was successful enough, maybe I hope they could see doing that one. But time will tell. I know recently in this series they switched over from the Yakuza series to using the title Like a Dragon, and the newest one you play as one of the other characters, except he's in like Hawaii. So it's like, okay. But yeah. And then one I've played before that I've done actually a little bit of a stream on my channel, of course, that's Ghost of Tsushima. I may have talked a little bit about this. This takes place during the early fictionalized version of the early Sengoku period. This has the historic Mongol invasion of Tsushima, but you play as a fictional samurai, Jin Sakai. You should probably know the story of it by now. All the samurai are slaughtered, save Jin. He goes to save his uncle. He gets thrown over the ledge. He gets rescued by Yuna. And over the course of this game, he goes to save his uncle while learning new and dishonorable techniques while wrestling with his samurai upbringing, all the while slowly changing himself from an honorable samurai to something far more. And you can make some choices in the game and dialogue, but it doesn't really affect that much overall in the story. But there is one major change at the end of the game. For those who played the game, you know what I'm talking about. For those who somehow haven't yet, there's a big choice you can make in the game that affects slightly an outcome, but I've seen both choices, and the only things you get out of it are outfits and colors, but it's like, and of course, character dialogue that represents your choices. You can tackle the story in sort of like not necessarily a linear fashion, but because it's a huge open world that's separated by acts. It's 3 acts, Act 1, 2, and 3, and each section of the island is opened up. You start at the southern end of the island, and by the end of the game, you're up in the northern region. You can tackle the main story in any order, because it opens up at several piece missions at a time, at least in the early parts of the game, and then from there it's more or less straightforward, but you have a bunch of side quests or side stories in the game, and you can just soak in and absorb the world. The Ghost of Tsushima recently is obviously getting a sequel with Ghost of Yotei. I'm kind of curious about that one because a new trailer just dropped that announced a launch date. It's coming out in October. So I'm kind of excited and curious to see what this sequel is going to bring to the table in terms of the story and what our new protagonist is going to be like. And I basically am doing another playthrough on this, just to basically prep myself for the sequel. But other than that, that's really kind of the end of this video. Oh, but I did forget one movie, and that is the one that got me into wanting to watch more Japanese and samurai films. Give me just one sec. As I said, there was a movie I had left on my shelf that I had forgotten to show in my collection, and this was the film that got me into wanting to learn more about Japanese history and more samurai films, and that is Tom Cruise's 2003 The Last Samurai. I've heard people obviously compare it to Dances with Wolves. I've seen that movie, so I can kind of understand the comparison. A white man joins a outside culture and wants to become a part of it, and eventually becomes involved in a part of that culture. Nathan Algren is a former Civil War captain, at least by what the flashbacks look like. He kind of was an honorable man at one point. He lost his honor after being forced to slaughter a Native American village full of women and children by what the flashback shows, and that's why he drinks a lot of alcohol, is just to forget those memories. And by the end, he sort of becomes a changed man by the end of the film. I really like this movie, and this is something I revisit at least once or twice a month. I watched it recently last month. And other than that, that's really the end of the video. So I hope you guys like this little look at my collection, and I will be giving some of these videos their own dedicated video where I go into more detail about it, as well as some more of my thoughts and insights on these films. But until then, to stay up to date for more content like this, as well as other videos, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell notification on my channel and turn your notifications on to all. I am also in the process of working on my next podcast episode. I'm going to try to have something set up for Sunday, so I'll try and set out a reminder on my Facebook page about that and posting it on my socials. Until then, I will see you all next time with another video. So take care, have a good rest of your morning, afternoon, or evening, and goodbye for now.